We are living through a time at the intersection of energy and compute, and improving resource efficiency, resource utilization. We think we can drive lots of value, not only for our organization, but for all stakeholders.
Hey folks, Flo here, still at Energy Day at the Canadian Blockchain Consortium's trade mission. I'm here with Wyatt of Marathon Digital. Maybe you can give us your 1 minute introduction.
Absolutely, and pleasure to meet you. My name is Wyatt Shely. I'm the Vice President of Energy Harvesting, which is a new division at Marathon focused on transforming stranded, wasted excess energy into valuable assets. Primary focus is on off-grid compute and also utilizing waste heat for valuable uses. And Marathon Digital Holdings is a global company. We're publicly listed on the NASDAQ. We manage a portfolio of data center assets across the world on 4 continents. We have over 11 sites and manage a portfolio of roughly 1,100 megawatts or 1.1 gigawatts of capacity.
That's significant. There are so many things in what you said about wasted and stranded energy. And by the way, we're talking about heat as well, and it's 35 degrees Celsius here in Calgary. So if we're not as quick or clear as normally, that's why. But again, thanks for that introduction. So I guess an obvious question is, why are you here?
Well, we're here to not only discover how we can improve resource efficiency. You know, we have a global presence, but Alberta has a unique energy footprint, lots of energy assets, a diverse set of energy resources. And we are living through a time where at the intersection of energy and compute, and improving resource efficiency, resource utilization, we think we can drive lots of value, not only for our organization, but for all stakeholders. And it's been a fantastic week discovering how focused all the way from the governmental and regulatory level down to lots of private stakeholders as well, focused on improving resource utilization, resource efficiency, and driving home, you know, the best use case for all the molecules and electrons that we have.
Very, very well, very eloquent, very well explained. So I'm wondering if you could maybe, if I could put you on the spot, and if you could explain the value, that's the term you used yourself, of Bitcoin mining for anybody who, you know, there's obviously a lot of people who are still very, very, you know, skeptical, to say the least. But there are probably also people that are genuinely curious and that are like seeing, you know, that they're again large, listed, regulated entities like yours in the Bitcoin space. I mean, Bitcoin mining and crypto in general has come a long way in the last few years. So, what is Bitcoin mining's value in layman's terms?
Great question. So we really approach the energy sector with a solutions-oriented mindset. We believe with our distributed load technology, we can provide a lot of solutions that are facing utilities and the energy sector at large. And so one example in particular on our utility scale side of the business, which is the majority of our operations today, think 50, 100, 200 plus megawatt data centers that are co-located but behind the meter at wind and solar farms. And wind and solar are intermittent renewable energy resources, and you know, sometimes there are load mismatches as far as the renewable energy asset is producing more energy than can be transmitted to an end customer, and that is an example of excess energy that could be utilized. And so really at the end of the day, we incentivize by having distributed load co-located at the energy production site. We drive and incentivize the development of new renewable energy production. And also, another example of one of the solutions we provide to the energy sector is as a load balancer. And so, the unique element of digital asset compute or Bitcoin mining versus, say, traditional high performance compute is the ability to curtail up and down our operations. And so,
And why would you want to do that? Or could you take a concrete example, for example, perhaps from Texas?
yes, absolutely. So during peak demand hours, say during the dead heat of the summer, there's a lot of load on the grid for air conditioning, cooling infrastructure, and so when there's peak demand, sometimes it bumps up into the amount of supply of energy, and so we can ramp down our operation on a minute's notice and provide the ability for the energy to be transmitted to the grid. And so, serving as a load balancer is a valuable resource for grid operators.
Yeah, and of course, there's other layers to that. There is the fact that you're also generating value out of waste or stranded energy resources, because for those who don't know, a lot of the world's energy resources are not near major urban centers or manufacturing hubs. But also, you know, I'm curious if we can like talk a little bit about the sort of environmental narrative around Bitcoin mining, because it has been pretty, let's say, negative for the most part. You know, the world still believes that Bitcoin mining is bad for the environment, and as you explain this from a sort of an infrastructure point of view, could you take us to the next level and maybe speak about what Bitcoin mining could do to help with the environment?
Absolutely. So, if I had to bucket it into one statement, it would be that our distributed load incentivizes the development of new renewable energy. And so, if you have an oversupply of renewables, there's a pretty steep duck curve where during the middle of the day when the sun is shining and there's lots of wind, there might be an oversupply of energy. And if that duck curve becomes too steep, it's difficult to manage a grid. And so having a valuable load resource that can soak up that excess, it stabilizes the supply curve and helps utilities manage grid operations. And so that's one use case as far as incentivizing the development of new renewable energy. Also, on the energy harvesting side of the business, it's twofold. Focused on off-grid compute, and so one use case example of this, we have a pilot in Layton, Utah, where we are utilizing our technology to consume methane that is flared from a landfill. There's many examples of Bitcoin miners soaking up wasted gas or associated gas from in the oil and gas sector. And so, this is an energy resource that is being wasted via a flare. And
Wasted and potentially damaging the environment.
precisely. So
Now you're capturing it, turning it into energy, turning it into money. Does that also then help in terms of the emissions? Because I guess it's being processed somehow.
absolutely. So methane or CH4 is 80 times more carbon. It's 80 times more intensive as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. And so, just like using a finance metaphor as far as ROI or return on investment, like to use the analogy of ROE or return on environment. And so, really going after methane can have an outsized improvement on carbon mitigation efforts.
Very, very cool. Yeah, and that's probably the most important point I think in this whole conversation is that Bitcoin mining is not just not bad for the environment, but it's potentially a great incentive to better practices. And yeah, we could talk about this all day, but just to keep it a little bit short. So you're here in Calgary, here in Canada. As I understand, Marathon doesn't have operations in Canada. Are you also here because you're considering, setting up some, investing basically in Canada? And even if not, do you see collaboration opportunities between our two countries in the Bitcoin space specifically?
I certainly see collaboration opportunities. We currently do not have any operations in Canada or specifically in Alberta, but from a macro lens, we are very interested in opportunities that have excess energy or a mindset where they would like to improve resource efficiency. There's opportunities where, at the end of the day, that in the oil and gas sector, lacking pipeline articulation or also transmission infrastructure, and that can lead to stranded energy assets, and so from a macro lens, we have a global perspective of seeking these stranded or underutilized energy assets, and certainly with the clear regulatory framework and of course, northern neighbors, we see a lot of opportunity, and it's been a fantastic week as far as hearing from all the government and regulatory stakeholders and the openness to the industry to grow in the region and collaborate. Again, we're living in a very unique time where you're starting to see the meshing of compute and energy. Saw a stat the other day that the demand for energy from data centers is growing immensely. I think currently in the U.S. it's roughly 20 gigawatts and expected to grow to 35 gigawatts by 2030. And with this, this is energy used by data centers.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, I think the need, the flexibility of our industry is that we can co-locate anywhere. Extremely flexible, distributed, modular load that can really serve as an energy solution for a lot of the issues that are facing the energy sector today.
Yeah, and the world. Yeah, it's interesting that term distributed load technology. It sounds awfully a lot like distributed ledger technology, right? Which basically means blockchain. Perhaps a final question: what is your key takeaway from this trip, the mission, the participation in with the Canadian Blockchain Consortium, and your first trip to Canada, as I understand?
Yeah, the main takeaway really is the similarity I see across all the conversations, all the meetings, all the panel discussions is a solutions-oriented mindset and a collaborative spirit. And I'm very optimistic that we've already seen a lot of the value that this industry can bring as distributed load to the various utilities and grid connected assets, and I think we're seeing more of that, and so yeah, the main takeaway is the ability of for our industry to transform what otherwise would be wasted or excess, improve the utilization of existing infrastructure that ultimately improves resource efficiency. And by doing that, you not only improve economic value, but you also improve or being good stewards.
The ROE.
Exactly. The ROI as well as the ROE, the return on the environment.
Yeah, what some people will call the triple bottom line. But Wyatt, I don't know about you, but I'm melting. So
Yes.
Thank you very, very much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.